Purusha prakritisto hi Bhukte prakṛtiṁ guṇān Karanam gunasangosya Sadasat yoni janmasu. Thank you. Purusha, the living entity. Prakrti-stha, being situated in the material energy. He certainly bhukte, enjoys. Prakrti-jan, produced by the material nature. Guṇān, the modes of nature. Karanam, the cause. Gunasanga, the association with the modes of nature. Asya, of the living entity. Sat asat, in good and bad. Yoni, species of life. Janmasu, in birth. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species. Please repeat. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species. Purport. This verse is very important for an understanding of how the living entities transmigrate from one body to another. It is explained in the second chapter that the living entity is transmigrating from one body to another, just as one changes dress. This change of dress is due to his attachment to material existence. As long as he is captivated by this false manifestation, he has to continue transmigrating from one body to another. Due to his desire to lord it over material nature, he is put into such undesirable circumstances. Under the influence of material desire, the entity is born sometimes as a demigod, sometimes as a man, sometimes as a beast, as a bird, as a worm, as an aquatic, as a saintly man, as a bug. This is going on. And in all cases, the living entity thinks himself to be the master of his circumstances, yet he is under the influence of material nature. How he is put into such different bodies is explained here. It is due to the association with the different modes of nature. One has to rise, therefore, above the three material modes and become situated in the transcendental position. That is called Krishna consciousness. Unless one is situated in Krishna consciousness, his material consciousness will oblige him to transfer from one body to another, because he has material desires since time immemorial. But he has to change that conception. That change can be effected only by hearing from authoritative sources. The best example is here. Arjuna is hearing the science of God from Krishna. The living entity, if he submits to this hearing process, will lose his long-cherished desire to dominate material nature, and gradually and proportionately, as he reduces his long desire to dominate, he comes to enjoy spiritual happiness. In a Vedic mantra it is said that as he becomes learned in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he proportionately relish his eternal, blissful life. Om Aganati Mirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Gora Govinda Swaminiti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasatyadi Satarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So again, a wonderful purport by Srila Prabhupada, a beautiful verse by the Lord in Bhagavad-Gita. Bhagavad-Gita is non-different from the Lord, so we are greatly fortunate to hear the words directly spoken by the Supreme Lord himself, like that. So today's topic is about Purusha and Prakriti and their connection, the union between Purusha and Prakriti. So Purusha, of course, means controller. So the immediate thing to understand is actually only Krishna is supremely situated in the transcendental position of the absolute Purusha, or the complete controller. And that is always the first point established in all of our literatures. But Krishna himself says in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, he spoke that fools deride me when I come in this human form. Krishna, he chose to come in this material world in his original Shyam Sundar form. He's not imitating the human beings. That is his original form as Shyam Sundar. And he comes at different times to this material world just to bestow his mercy, to give his association, because this material world emanates from him. Krishna stated that, we said that last time, that all material and spiritual worlds emanate from me. So this material sphere is under the control of the three modes of material nature, as Krishna and Prabhupada is explaining here. So transcendence, or the spiritual realm, is foreign here. So Krishna comes himself, he brings his teaching to give us the opportunity to connect to bhakti, to connect to the pure atmosphere of the spiritual world. Arjuna recognized that in Krishna. He himself praised him in the 10th chapter, where he says, "You are Param Brahma, you are Param Dhamma, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth." Arjuna recognized Krishna is that. That is his position. In fact, in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, text 42, the last text of the 10th chapter, Krishna says, anyway, what is all this glorification, all of these beautiful things that I've just explained to you? Please just understand that this entire material universe is just a fragment of my emanation. And we learn in the Brahma Samhita, of course, the first verse, Ishvaraha Parama Krishna. Lord Brahma says, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is made of Satchit Ananda Vigraha. His form is Satchit Ananda. It's eternal, it's full of knowledge, and it's completely saturated with bliss. So these are transcendental qualities that the Lord is always made up out of. Now we are a tiny part of the Supreme Person, so inherently, as spirit souls, we are also Sat, Chit and Ananda, but in minute quantity. However, when the living entity chooses to come to this material world, as Prabhupada explained in the purport, he wants to lord it over material nature. He wants to enjoy. He wants to control. He wants to imitate. It's like a child in play, wanting to, like a little girl might have her dolls and her little kitchen and like that, because she's imitating her mother. She's watching her mother's activities and she's imitating. So the living entity is forced to come to this material sphere because they want to imitate these activities of being enjoyers, being controllers, and being the Lord, like that. However, really we're just a portion of the Lord's energy. But just to explain the Lord's position a little bit further, Srila Prabhupada, he quotes, Parasya Shaktiya Vividaiva Shruvate, from the Shvetasvara Upanishad. He says, the Supreme Lord has multi-potencies which act so perfectly that all consciousness, strength and activity are being directed solely by His will. So if we understand the position of the Lord, He can do that just by His will. He perfectly controls all consciousness. He is the source of all strength and activity, and He directs everything. So a tiny jiva coming to the material world might think to imitate that, but actually he will be defeated at every step. It is not possible. Because, as we've just learned, Krishna is the Purusha, He's the supreme controller, and the living entity is actually prakriti. It's a part of His energy. Krishna has so many energies that emanate from Him, but three primary energies, namely His spiritual energy or His internal energy, His material energy. He is the one that has created the material world, that has given this facility for the living entity to come to. And there is the marginal energy. That is the living entity is the Lord's marginal energy, or the Tatashta Shakti. So the position of the living entity can never be Purusha. It is not designed like that. He will always be Prakriti. He's always the energy of the Lord, and he has only the choice. A minute independence is given to the living entity. He can choose to be directly under the control of the Lord, or he can choose to be under the control of the three modes of material nature. That's inevitable. When the Lord comes in His original form to the material world, He's never affected by the three modes. He's created them. They are His energy. However, the conditioned soul immediately comes under the control of the stringent laws of material nature. Prabhupada says he can at best be called a small enjoyer, a subordinate Purush. We have some control. We can make some choices and decisions, and even some amount of happiness is available to us. However, again, we're here in this material sphere because we try to be big. Even some think, I am God, I can become God. So we're in direct competition to the Lord, which is not the correct understanding. So no matter which way the conditioned soul will endeavor, he will meet with defeat. In the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, we learn in verse 27, Prakrite kriyamanaini gunai kamani savasha ahankara vimudatma kataham iti manyate. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego. The false ego is to think that I'm a Purusha, I'm a controller, I'm an enjoyer. So being influenced by this false ego, he thinks himself the doer of activities which are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. So whatever we are encountering here in the material world is just an interaction of so many millions of variations of the three modes of material nature. The living entity is forced. There's no choice. We don't have any choice. The living entity is forced to act under the three modes. And that's why in this verse, tonight's verse, it says, and thus he meets with good and evil. Because we are doing our activities, some of them are pious, some of them are impious, and accordingly we get a result like that. Prabhupada explained in the verse before, 21, that this body, for the living entity who has taken shelter of this material body, that body becomes the field of his activity. Whereas for the Supreme Lord, from the pores, millions of universes are emanating. So he's conscious not only just of this one universe, he's controlling millions of universes. Whereas the living entity is only aware of his particular body and everything in relationship to his body. And actually, he is entrapped by the material energy, by Maya. Maya has enchanted him. Maya, like we said last time, Maya presents everything in a backwards way. Maya presents that which is happiness as unhappiness, that which is religion as irreligion. Oh, you are the enjoyer. Yes, come here and enjoy. But we are not the enjoyer. Krishna is the enjoyer. Everything and everyone, including this material world, is meant for Krishna's enjoyment. Sometimes even amongst devotees we have this understanding that, all right, Krishna understands that the living entity wants to separately enjoy from him, so he's facilitated that by creating this material world. And we can have this attitude, oh yes, this material world is here for my enjoyment. That's false. That's a false understanding. You might think like that. Maya might enchant you to think in that way. But actually everything is the property of the Lord. Everything belongs to him. So everything needs to be utilized in his service for his enjoyment. It's just like if I build a beautiful home, with nice furniture and AC and comfortable beddings and like that. And I invite you, come, be my guest. And you come and you settle into your room and you've just had a nice meal and there's a beautiful bathroom and all facilities there. And then you sit there and you think, oh, I like this. This is nice. I'm going to stay here. This is my house now. You see? Actually, if you develop that attitude, you become a thief. Isn't it? You're a thief. It's not your house. So similarly, this material world belongs to Krishna. And in Prabhupada, he calls it a prison house. He says, actually, it's a prison house. In Australia, we don't call it jail anymore or prison. They call it a correctional center. A correctional center. So it's a place where somehow or other you have to go to because you did something wrong. You made a mistake. You misunderstood something and you need to be corrected. So this material world is an environment for us to learn, oops, I've made a mistake and I've been sent here and the wards, the guards are there, the three modes, they're there. And I have to watch out, I have to follow these laws if I want to become free. Prabhupada explains in the previous verse, there's 8,400,000 species. They exist because of the combination of the three modes, right? Somebody wants to have beautiful eyesight. All right, take the birth of an eagle. Somebody wants to really smell many beautiful things. All right, become a dog. Work as a I don't know what you call them, these drug dogs they have at the airport. They have to sniff all the luggage of all the travelers that come through, right? They have amazing noses. Even you don't, in Australia, you're not allowed to bring any food items or any such thing. So even if you've had a piece of food in your pocket and you've eaten it, but the dog will still smell, oh, there was some food, and sometimes you get pulled up because the guards are thinking you've got something illegal in your pocket, you see. So according to wanting to enjoy and wanting to control, the modes will combine in such a way, all right, you want to enjoy like this, you want to enjoy like that, here's your chance, like that. So when I was reading this purport, I remembered when I was young, we used to very easily get holiday jobs. Nowadays, it doesn't exist so much anymore. There used to be a much more small enterprises, small factories, small industries, and you could literally just walk down the street and there'd be a sign in the window and you can apply, and just for a few weeks you could take a job. So we used to do that when we were young, just work in different places. And I remember I worked in this one factory in my Christmas holidays, and it was not a nice environment, but you have the factory floor with all the employees working behind different machines and like that. And up somewhere high, there was this glass box, and all we could see was the neon light. So you could be in this environment or working in this factory, and you never see the boss. And you could start thinking, oh, maybe I could just make this all mine. This is a nice setup. It earns a lot of money, and there's only a big white light up there anyway. The boss doesn't exist. I don't believe in him, you see. And this is how the illusion sets in. You might, make friends with the other employees and try and convince them, don't you know, I'm actually the controller here, and I own this, and let's work together and make this a success, you see. So similarly, this is the kind of illusory attitude of the conditioned souls in the material world. Prabhupada says, actually there's no enjoyment. It looks like it, but there really is no enjoyment. Like we were saying last time, we need to understand that actually this is a place of birth, death, disease, and old age. Nobody wants those things. So if I'm actually a controller and I have some control, why wouldn't I control those things and get rid of that? But I can't. I can't stop birth. I can't stop old age. I can't stop disease. I can't stop my death. It's impossible. And what's worse, I don't know when it's going to come. At any moment, I have no idea. It doesn't matter how wealthy I am, how famous I am, how hard I'm working. I haven't got a clue. So I'm not in control, you see. And there is really no enjoyment, only unlimited miseries. We are thinking we are the enjoyers, but that's Maya's working. She presents this sense gratification in relationship with the body as happiness, but the body is temporary. And there's a beautiful verse in the first verse of the 5th canto, 5th chapter. Lord Rishabhdev gives teachings to his 100 sons. And the first thing he says, this human form is a rarely achieved birth. Why waste it? Why waste it on sense gratification, just like the dogs and hogs that eat stool? These are his words. And Prahlad Maharaj, similarly in the 7th canto, he says this human form of life is a rarely achieved birth. 8,400,000 species are there. And somehow or other we've managed, Prabhupada says, we've been a demigod, we've been this, we've been that, we've been a bug, we've been a worm, we've been through it all. And somehow or other now we've achieved this human form of life. Let's not waste it. Let's make good use of it. Let's not degrade our consciousness to enjoy material sense gratification. Or like Krishna says in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, text 22, he says, Yehi sangsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate antyantavanta konteya na teshu ramate Buddha. Buddha means intelligence. Anybody, and an intelligent person doesn't take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the senses. If you have some intelligence, think about it. Be a little bit sober. Consider your situation. You're trying to enjoy your senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and a wise man does not delight in them. So we've come to this understanding that actually Krishna is the only controller. We are to be controlled. If we don't submit to Krishna's control, we'll be forced to be controlled by the three modes of nature, go through this process of birth and death. We learn now that the material world is actually a nasty place. From the highest to the lowest, there's repeated birth and death. It's a nasty place. It's a platform of envy. It's a platform of competition. That's the fact. Because the living entity has come into this material sphere due to envy of the Lord. So we're all these criminals in the correctional center trying to learn how to become free from this envy. In the spiritual world, there's no envy. And Srila Prabhupada wanted to create a society free of envy. Padam padam yad viparam yad padam yad viparam na tesham. This material world is a nasty place because at every step there is danger. You can make so many plans, but you can trip. Somebody comes and hits you, or a car smashes into you. At any minute, anything can happen, isn't it? And there's no protection. Prabhupada often gives that example. Even the wealthiest doctor, when his time comes, please, 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 dear Lord, just give me 10 more years. I have to get my daughter married. I have to finish my business. No, when your time is up, your time is up. Like that. So Krishna is Bhokta. He's the enjoyer. And the living entity is Bhogya, to be enjoyed. That is the correct relationship. And if we are in that paradigm, then everything shifts correctly and peacefully and harmoniously. Krishna said in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, he speaks about the living entity, how they are his superior energy. In chapter 7, text 5, he says, there is another superior energy of mine, which comprises the living entity, who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. They're exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. So Krishna's material energy is his inferior energy. He has the spiritual energy, which is the spiritual world, and the living entity is Krishna's Tatastha Shakti, which belongs to his superior energy. Just by chance, we did some reading the other day from Sri Upanishad, and sometimes, just Prabhupada's words, they're just so succinct and so perfect. I thought to just read this one paragraph, because especially in this day where we all have so much access, to the internet and the news and this going on and that going on, and we're all very, very aware of this extreme abuse of people of the planet and how it's destroying the planet. It's really seriously bad. Sometimes I wonder, when the sages of Naimisharanya spoke Srimad Bhagavatam, and they did this big sacrifice to try and mitigate the effects of Kali Yuga. Sometimes I'm wondering, did they really know it was going to get this bad? I mean, it's really bad. If you look at it from the perspective of the animals, especially the cows, if you look at it from the perspective of the trees, like in the Amazon, if you look at it from the perspective of the animals in the Arctic, I mean, there's so much uncertainty of what's happening in the world. So, excuse me. So there's so much abuse and misuse And Srila Prabhupada says, this is the last paragraph to mantra 1 in the Sri Upanishad. The roots of sin is deliberate disobedience. See, we could say, well, they don't know any better. They're ignorant. No. There's no such thing as ignorant or innocent victims. If truth is in the heart of all living beings. If you want to be truthful and honest, Paramatma, Krishna in the heart, will give you the intelligence to be a decent, honest human being. You see? So the root of sin is deliberate disobedience to the laws of nature through not recognizing the proprietorship of the Lord. Disobedience to the laws of nature or disobedience to the order of the Lord will bring ruin to the human being. And that's what they're doing. That's what's happening. They bring ruin upon themselves by being so thoroughly dishonest in all spheres, in all levels of human society. Like that. On the other hand, if one is sober and knows the laws of nature without being influenced by unnecessary attachment or abhorrence, he is sure to be recognized again by the Lord and thus become eligible for going back to Godhead, back to the eternal home. It is very interesting transition. First of all, Prabhupada immediately points out what is the cause, and that's the disobedience to the law, thinking yourself to be an enjoyer. Then he immediately establishes the fact that you don't want to stay in this material world. I was reading, he says, if you can understand that you are an eternal being, then why would you stay in a temporary situation? So he's not giving the clue here how to make the material world more comfortable so that you can stay here longer. Again and again, Prabhupada is saying, well, just take the opportunity and realize that you need to come home, your original home, back to the spiritual world. This human form of life is meant for that purpose, not to even try and make it comfortable here and live a better quality life, but to become sober, honest, and introspective and understand these different energies and what's happening and why and how to get out. And he encourages in many places within this life, if you take up this Krishna consciousness process, if you join this Krishna consciousness movement, you can make your life perfect in this life and go home back to Godhead. But immediately what we need to understand, so we are under the control of the three modes of nature. So how to become free from these three modes? I don't have any choice. There's sattva guna, raja guna, tama guna. Prabhupada says golden shackle, silver shackles, and iron shackles. We're all shackled, right? So how to get over it? In Bhagavad-Gita, 7th chapter, 14th verse, Daivihi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mam evaye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. Krishna says, this divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. Right? We've come to a point now, yes, I understand. I need to overcome these three modes. I don't want to be under that control. And Krishna says it's difficult. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond them. In fact, there's so many verses in Srimad Bhagavatam that the material world is compared to a huge ocean. But somebody who has taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, it becomes the size of the water contained in a calf's hoof print. You can easily cross, there's no question. It's not a challenge at all. Later on in the 14th chapter, he will again explain also, one who engages in full devotional service unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the three modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. We come to that level of the spiritual energy. So engaging in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances. Now you're thinking, oh, wow, that's a lot. Am I going to be able to do that? How will I be able to do that? How will I be able to engage in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances? Yes, I want to do it. I want to do the right thing. I get it. But how is it possible? You see? And that's the clue Prabhupada gives towards the end in the purport to this verse. He speaks about the hearing process. Last time we spoke about the process of knowledge, and tonight we're learning something about the hearing process. We know from Prahlad Maharaj's teachings in the 7th canto that he gives the 9 angas of bhakti, the 9 limbs of bhakti, navara bhakti, right? Starting with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. So the first item is Shravanam, is hearing. So you want to surrender to the Lord, you want to come free from the stringent laws of material nature. The first thing you need to do is to hear, Shravanam. In the 3rd canto, it is explained because this path of bhakti that we are following is called Shrutekshita Pantam. Shruta Ikshita. I'm not a Sanskrit expert, but Shruta means to hear and Ikshita means to see. So we are following not the path of seeing is believing. In the material world, yes, if I can see it, if my senses can touch it, if I can experience it, I believe it. But on the spiritual path, we hear, and through the hearing process, we see the path. So we need to hear from the authorities, from the Mahajans, from the Gurujanas, from our predecessors, because they know the path. They've walked the path. They shine light on the path. Om Agyanata Timaran. They know we are in ignorance. All right, now you want here. I show you the way. So it begins with hearing. And for that, coming back to the 3 modes, that's why we need to understand as devotees, it is essential to at least minimum try and establish yourself in the mode of goodness, sattva gun. Because the mode, as later will be explained in the next chapter, the mode of goodness is the mode of knowledge, of enlightenment, you see. If we are at least established in our life, our activities, our words, our thoughts, our hearing, our eating, our doing, if we're trying to do these activities, adjust them, at least on the mode of goodness platform, we'll be able to hear. If we are so affected by the mode of passion means competition, enjoying, doing, I'm the doer, you see, then you try to give good advice, they won't hear. Somebody in the mode of passion will always shout you down because they know better than you. Don't tell me. They can't hear. Even they're in the association of pure devotees who is giving nice knowledge because they're not in that mood of surrender. They're not in that mood of submission, you see. Because they think they know better. There's still pride, you see. So they can't hear. And somebody in the very much affected by the mode of ignorance, they definitely can't hear anything. Any conversation, if you see sometimes when people quarreling and they're just shouting and yelling and screaming and beating and hitting and slamming the door, I mean, it's just a disaster, right? There's no solution at all. So that's the manifestation of the mode of ignorance. So the first thing on the hearing process is to endeavor for the mode of goodness, like that. And if we're coming to this, if we're submitting ourselves to this hearing process, then thereby our heart will be purified. Because all this ignorance that Prabhupada describes there is because we're under the false ego. We're thinking we can enjoy. We're having so many anādī, so many material desires. So many unlimited material desires we're carrying in our heart since time immemorial. So this hearing process, see, there's the reservoir of nectar, the spiritual world, the ocean of devotion, and the pipe, the big pipe is coming. The Guru Parampara, the Guru is there, the pipes connected to that reservoir. And they're bringing that pipe and they're connecting it to our ear. And then that transcendental knowledge enters our ear, it comes into our heart, it cleanses our heart, and it wants to come, then we can come to kirtan. Then we can come to correct speaking or repeating what we've heard. We never concoct or make up our own things. We speak what we have heard. That's the transcendental path. A guru never thinks he is a guru. A guru is the disciple of his guru, who is a disciple of his guru. So it's that disciplic succession is that pipe. And you know, this is a nice thing I've heard one time, you know that the cleansing process is going on in your heart when the dirty wash water is coming out through the eyes. If you know that this Krishna consciousness hearing process is having effect on your heart because you're crying, you're learning to cry. You're learning to cry, oh Gurudev, please give me mercy. Oh Krishna, please give me mercy. Yes, I understand. I was so in the wrong. I was Maya Das. Now I understand I have to become Krishna Das. Like that. Actually, Prabhupada says we need to beat our mind with shoes or with a broom. And to put it into submission, right? Because our stupid mind brought us here into this material world thinking your senses will enjoy, right? So we have this stupid, wicked mind, so it needs discipline. Again, this hearing is the discipline. So we are voluntarily exposing ourselves to this discipline. That means we are recognizing ourselves as a disciple, a servant, you see. So the shoe and broom. My revered spiritual master, Sri Srimad Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj, he said, it's not that we sit down every morning and we actually take a shoe and beat our head, with a shoe. And then at night we get a broom and maybe I beat you with a shoe and you beat me with a broom. It's not like that. He says the beating of the shoe means in the morning, hear Bhagavatam. And the beating of the broom in the evening means to hear Bhagavad-Gita, like that. So that's why Prabhupada has made this beautiful program of hearing Bhagavatam in the morning and Bhagavad-Gita in the evening. So we need to understand to accept this discipline of hearing, and thereby, and this is a very, very important point, thereby we are receiving the mercy to understand. To understand this tattva, this bhakti tattva, again, it's not your own intellectual endeavor. Because we know, Prabhupada says in the 3rd canto in Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhakti, Bhagavan and Bhakta are not of this material world. They're on the transcendental level. So how can you, with your material body, with your material mind and senses, understand the transcendental? It's not possible. However, if you're submitting yourself to this hearing process and becoming a submissive disciple, then you're receiving the mercy to understand this knowledge. You see, it is revealed to you. Krishna consciousness is a process of revelation. We are becoming purified. We're becoming first purified, this apana shodhite. Our heart becomes purified, and then the Guru can fill it up with transcendental knowledge. Prabhupada gives the example, if you have a glass of ink, right now nobody uses that anymore, but in the olden days they used to have an ink pot. So if you have a glass of ink and you pour milk. Pour milk, out comes the ink, and eventually you will be left with a glass of milk, you see. So our heart is like that ink pot, and the Guru, the Mahajanas, they are pouring milk, pouring the nectar in our ears, and it's coming into our heart. The dirt is coming out through our tears and is being replaced by the nectar of Krishna consciousness. So we need to develop this greed. We need to be very greedy to hear, to understand tattva, because to go home back to Godhead, you need to understand Krishna in truth. And in many purports, I encourage you to research it. Prabhupada clearly says that we need to hear from the mouth of a pure devotee, somebody who knows Krishna, who has the connection to Krishna, who is a pipe, who is a bona fide pipe, who can bring you close to Krishna, who can purify your heart and establish Krishna in your heart. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has come to teach us how to get this pure bhakti. We want to receive pure bhakti, we want to develop pure bhakti. So Krishna himself, he came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach us how to get this pure bhakti and how to get Krishna. He taught what is the purpose of this human form of life, not to waste it. And we're saying, every morning we're saying this beautiful verse, and so many verses in glorification, of course, are there, of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of his mission and purpose. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Goradvishe Namo Namaha. I just want to read it correctly. O most munificent incarnation, O merciful Lord, most magnanimous incarnation of the Lord, Lord Chaitanya. You are Krishna himself, as appearing as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have assumed the golden color of Srimati Radharani, and you are widely distributing pure love of Krishna. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has come to indiscriminately, impartially, to one and all, give this Krishna prema, this Krishna bhakti, so that we can become purified and be re-established in our eternal loving relationship with Krishna. And he himself teaches how to do that. He says, if the conditioned soul becomes Krishna conscious by the mercy of saintly persons who voluntarily preach scriptural injunctions and helping to become Krishna conscious, the conditioned soul is liberated from the clutches of Maya, who gives him up. This is in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 20, text 120. We were saying we want to become free from Maya. We want to become free from the clutches of the three modes of material nature. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving the process, hearing from the pure devotee, and then Maya will give you up, will release you, will release your shackles. Also in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 19, text 151, Lord Chaitanya teaches Rupa Goswami, unless one is favored by a pure devotee, he cannot attain the platform of devotional service. To say nothing of Krishna bhakti, one cannot even be relieved from the bondage of material existence. So the clues are given again and again. Like last time we were saying, coming to this point of surrendering to a pure devotee is crucial, right? Prabhupada says it's essential. So many instructions are there. So we need to expose ourselves to cleanse our heart by this hearing process. Then all of our anattas will be destroyed. Or as Srila Prabhupada quotes Narottam Das Thakur, he says, Gorangera madhua lila jakane praveshila hridaya niyamala belota. Right? Famous song in glorification of Lord Chaitanya. Prabhupada says, if one wants to cleanse his heart, he must take to the movement of Lord Chaitanya, that is Krishna consciousness. So this is the process. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Are there any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Mataji, for explaining our reason of suffering in this world. You mentioned that we are here because we want to lord it over the material nature.
Prabhupada says that in the purport,
Yeah.
yes.
So it means my understanding that is the human being want to lord it over. So what's the reason for this animal species, the other species being here?
Yeah, well, that's what I explained, because the soul wants to eat indiscriminately food. So don't waste it on a human form. If you just want to come here and just without any discrimination eat whatever, whenever, well then become a pig, because that body is more suitable for that.
So those animals came from our desires.
Yes, because of your material desires and the extent and the depth and the type of material desire, the three modes of nature have organized a particular body that will fulfill those desires. I want to have sex all the time. All right, become a pigeon. They can, in that body, if that body facilitates, you can have 60 or more times sex in one day, or become a monkey. No problem. The human form is not meant for this sense enjoyment. The human form is an elevated stage of consciousness that facilitates, enables you to inquire into the absolute truth.
So when we came from spiritual world, we came as a human being, and then we evolved into different species because of our desires here?
Yeah, I don't exactly know that you immediately come as a human being. There are different understandings about that, but somehow or rather, because of you were in a position, your Tatashta Shakti, so you were in a position where you could see to surrender to the Lord or to come to the material world and enjoy. So immediately when you had this material desire or wanting to be the enjoyer rather than the servant, instantly you're promoted to the material world or demoted to the material world. Prabhu?
You mentioned that you should become as an enjoyer.
Yes.
Yeah, but we see the beauty and we feel happiness. So is it kind of like being
No. That's transcendental enjoyment. You please understand that the discussion tonight was about the conditioned living entities. We're not talking about devotees. Devotees are already souls that have submitted themselves to the Lord in service. And there's such a thing as seva ananda, right? It's like, okay, we don't want to eat indiscriminately. I appreciate, we're not only just following the sattva gun, we're trying to follow bhakti, we're trying to act as souls. So we're enjoying Krishna Prasad. We're honoring Krishna Prasad. And Krishna is so kind, he's giving us such a taste in his prasadam. Of course we will enjoy. You understand? It's not that there's no enjoyment, but we need to know how to achieve transcendental enjoyment, to get that nectar, to get that enjoyment at every step. True enjoyment, the enjoyment of the soul. And the enjoyment of the soul is to give pleasure to Krishna, to Guru and Krishna. So even this hearing process that we're doing it for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. And as we are endeavoring, this pleasure comes to us as a reciprocation. You know, we know as devotees, we can gauge. If I feel very unhappy, or I feel very confused or very miserable, we kind of take it as an indication that Krishna is trying to tell us something. We need to make some kind of adjustment. However, if in our services we feel light and happy and jolly and cheerful, then we are getting Guru and Krishna's reward, reciprocation. Guru is pleased, he rewards us. Guru wants us to be happy, no? We sing that every morning in the samsara prayers. He likes to see us singing and dancing and taking prasadam. Isn't it? Krishna wants to see his devotee happy. Yes, Prabhu?
Is reading also hearing?
Yes, reading is hearing, because what you've heard, you might forget. So the books are given to remind us. Primarily we need, that's why I brought up this point, and it's repeated in many places, we need to hear from the mouth. We need to hear direct Shabda Brahma. We need to hear the transcendental sound from the pure devotee. However, even Vyasadeva 5,000 years ago, he realized that in this Kali Yuga, people have short memories, short lives, poor memories. So he wrote everything down. So what we are hearing, then we study, oh yes, my guru spoke this. Oh yes, I remember he said like that. You see, we have to hear from our predecessor, from our Guru Janas, we have to hear from advanced devotees. Just sitting and reading alone, you will not come to the right conclusion. You cannot be separate, independent somewhere and only read. You need the association of those devotees who are realized, who are holding Krishna in their heart, and then by that association, you also come to the right understanding and you can have discussion. So Prabhupada has kindly given us these books, and because our memory is so poor, and to give us a deeper and deeper and deeper understanding.
Actually, although you have answered it perfectly, saying that when we hear directly, then it. But when we are hearing, we are reading, that time also Prabhupada, Krishna, as a
Yes,
devotee,
yes, that is true.
And at the same time, I see when you read with absorption, the thing kind of enters into you, you know.
Yes.
You can recite so many verses.
You can have realizations because Krishna is there in your heart.
Yeah.
Krishna says, I'm the Veda, all Vedanta comes from me, I'm the Vedic knowledge, I'm situated in everyone's heart, all knowledge comes from me. So the mercy of the Shastra is there, because the book is non-different from the person. So by surrendering our intelligence, Krishna says that in the 18th chapter, by studying this book, you're surrendering your intelligence to this dialogue, to this knowledge, and definitely there will also be a reciprocation, you see. So we're utilizing our intelligence to try to better understand Krishna's words more and more. However, the warning is just given that you cannot do it alone. Yes, Prabhu?
Just now, we should hear from the pure devotee. But it's very rarely comes to chance that we hear from the advanced devotee. So not that we are hearing every day, but we are a different person.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic. Pure devotees are always present. Pure devotees are always available. My dear Gurudev would say, without the help of the sunshine, this material world would not go on. So similarly, without the help of pure devotees, this world of Vaishnavism would not go on. So they're definitely there, they're available. We have to be greedy. We have to be crying for it. We have to be praying for it. And then it is also explained in the Nectar of Devotion, at least we hear from those who are more advanced than ourselves. We always seek out those who are more Krishna conscious than ourselves. Of course, nowadays so many lectures are there and all these online courses and this and that. So much is available to us. So there's a danger that we can be selective. I hear one day from this, one day from that. That's why I spoke to try and clarify this hearing process. It has to be done in the proper mood. It has to be done in the mood of surrender. So we need to select. We need to find that representative of Krishna that inspires pure devotion within my heart. And because this speaker inspires pure devotion within my heart, that will help me then to develop devotional service to the Lord. So I don't hear, we used to sometimes joke, it's not infotainment. Even in the devotee community, there's so many speakers, so many lectures, so many seminars, and this and that. And people can, just go from here to there. Oh, wow, that was really cool. That was really far out. It's not for our entertainment. That's the whole point. The whole point of hearing is to help me surrender to Krishna. So I need to find that source that inspires me towards pure devotional service. I need to hear in a submissive mood from that source. Yes?
Prabhupada set up this program for us.
Yes. So we are hearing. So Prabhupada has given that instruction. You hear, and then what you hear, what you've learned, you repeat, because we need to practice. We're speaking this kirtan because of Prabhupada's instruction. We're hearing, and then we're speaking what we've learned. We share for our purification. What we're hearing is for my purification. Then I speak what I've heard. I'm just a simple messenger, just like the postman. He just delivers the message. So I don't add anything. I don't concoct anything. I don't invent anything. As what I've heard, that I'll speak. And there's, like we discussed last time, there's always somebody we can help who is junior to us, isn't it? There's always somebody who's equal to us, who's my friend, and we can help each other. I've understood like this, did you understand like that? We can compare notes like that. However, we need to come to this point of hearing from the mouth of a pure devotee. If we want to be successful on this path of pure devotional service and receive Krishna prema.
Like if somebody can think this Bhagavad-Gita class is going on.
Yes.
And Virat is just speaking like this food, I should not hear from. I should hear from them.
No. This Bhagavad-Gita class is going on the order of Srila Prabhupada.
Yes.
So we're fulfilling his wish. It's under his instruction. He's left behind so many purports, so many lectures for us to study and research and learn. And then we can come into this environment and speak it's like when you're in a classroom and the teacher is speaking and giving so many instructions, and then just to make sure that the students has understood correctly, he will say, okay, now repeat. You stand up now, tell me what I've just taught. Isn't it? And then thereby the teacher will know, oh yes, he's understood or not. So that's what we are doing here. We're following the instruction of Srila Prabhupada to study Bhagavad-Gita, hear from our gurus and repeat what we've learned. Ting.
My confusion is, question is like Bhagavad-Gita classes from some A person or A devotee. He hears somebody names his Bhagavad-Gita and he also knows that online some very advanced devotees speak. So what he should do?
I don't know. I can't answer that. It's your discretion what you choose, where you want to hear. That's your choice. I can't give you a hard and fast rule about that. I can only speak what Srila Prabhupada has just said in the purport, that the whole purpose of this hearing is to purify your heart. So you need to go and hear there, whereby this purification process can go on. And the inspiration of surrendering to Krishna and coming closer to Krishna is happening for you. That might be different for different people. I don't know. Hare Krishna. Is that all right? Please correct me if I said anything wrong, Katamisha. Do you want to add anything or correct me? Okay. Oh, one more question.
We are honest in devotional service. The Guru gives mercy in Sansar Daman and prayer. Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasadat.
Yes,
yasya
yes,
prasadat
exactly, exactly. That's the key point. You see, that's the key point, that we want mercy. By the mercy of Krishna, he presents us with a particular guru. And by that guru that Krishna has given us, we can come to Krishna. That is the process. And the guru has heard from Krishna. And now he's speaking to us. And we're just the students trying to repeat, trying to imbibe what we've learned. Thank you. Thank you for your patience and for your time. Thank you. Hare Krishna.